What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Good Wolf Project. I'm your host, Jerry Scarlato, and today is another Lessons from History. We take lessons that we learned in the past, we apply them to today so that we can have a better future. The problem is, one thing we learn from history is that human beings don't learn from history. We do that as individuals, we do that as societies. As individuals, for instance, we literally go through the same cycle of things over and over again. We tell ourselves we're trying something new, but really we're just doing the same process over and over again, starting and stopping and starting and stopping, which is called insanity, by the way. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Diets, for instance, we start diets and then we quit diets and then we start diets and then we quit diets and then we start diets and then we quit diets. And we tell ourselves that, oh, we are trying something new. It's a new diet. Well, no, you're doing the same exact thing. You're just replacing the diet, but you're doing the same process. You're not actually doing any work to figure out what's keeping you from continuing on the diet. You're just starting and stopping and starting and stopping. So as a society, we don't learn, number one, from our own mistakes, but we don't learn from other people's mistakes or other societies' mistakes. And both as society and individuals, we can learn from our own history, but preferably, actually, it would be best to learn from other people's history or from other people's mistakes, other people's misfortunes, so that we can learn their lessons, and so that hopefully we don't have to go through those same misfortunes, those same obstacles, those same challenges, and we can expedite our process. We can actually overcome those things more effectively. So the cool thing is we literally have autobiographies and biographies and movies, documentaries about many important people and many important events that can teach us things, that can teach us how to not screw up, how to not have the same mistakes, how to overcome problems so that our lives can be better. As a society, for instance, today it seems like we're in, these what seem to be, once in a lifetime kind of deals, which they are once in a lifetime, hopefully, but what seem to be just circumstances that are unusual and most people would believe just have never happened. Well, it's not true that they have never happened. The circumstance that we're in is just another version of a different circumstance. This same thing has happened multiple times in history, and you can look back and you can see that the same thing has happened multiple times in history. Some recent history, some not so recent history. So unless you look and you see and you do some looking on your own, then there's no way for you to start to spread the word that this has happened before and we can do something different and we can make a different choice. And the same thing goes for you. Whenever you're trying to diet or whenever you're trying to grow a business or whenever you're trying to do a new marketing plan or whenever you're trying to improve your relationship, instead of just throwing your hands up and saying, I can't figure it out, or instead of saying, well, I've tried all of the different options, whatever you're convincing yourself of, find other people who have done what you're trying to do and apply their ideas so that you can do something different, so that you can improve, so that you can, again, expedite the process so you don't have to sit there and twiddle your thumbs and convince yourself that your situation is so special and that you can't figure it out. All situations are figure outable. You just have to do some digging, which is hard, which takes time to figure it out. Today, we're going to learn from one of the greats, John D. Rockefeller. We're going to learn about the business of self-mastery because Rockefeller was both a master in business and a master of the self. We'll be talking primarily about his youth up to about his mid-20s today. Really, that's where a lot of his growth happened. What most people don't know is that Rockefeller accumulated a gigantic portion of his wealth by the time he was 30 years old because of his dealings and his ability to, again, master his self and master his will and other people's will, for that matter. But Rockefeller is a perfect example of somebody who puts ideas, has ideas, puts them into practice, focuses on them intensely, and focuses on them so much until he sees it externally, until he sees it being achieved externally, or that it has been achieved externally. Most people have an idea and it stays an idea. It stays just in their head as this little vision, this little, picture in their head, and it stays there. Maybe they try for a little bit, but they very quickly lose their ability to stay on it. They very quickly lose their traction. They lose their momentum, lose motivation, whatever. And that image just stays as an image in their head, stays as a dream in their head, as a thought in their head, instead of seeing it being turned into reality, being turned into literally something physical right in front of them. And that ability is something that can be learned by anybody, by any and all human beings. So we're going to jump into Rockefeller's youth, learn a little bit about what he went through at an early age, which made him into the person that he was as an adult, and then take three lessons from Rockefeller's early years that we can apply directly to our own life. Rockefeller was born in 1839 in Richford, New York, to Eliza and Bill Rockefeller. Eliza, his mom, was the rock of the family, if you will. He's the one that kind of held them together. She was also a very strict disciplinarian, so much so that one of the stories in the book, when he was maybe around 10, him and his brother were down by the creek, maybe where they weren't supposed to be, and they saw a boy drowning, and they pulled him out, and then they went home and told their mom about how they saved the boy. And the mom was like, "Oh, that's great. You're such good kids for saving him. Oh, go grab yourself a switch, by the way, so I can whip you for being down by the creek where you're not supposed to be." So while she loved the kids dearly, she also disciplined them to make sure that they kept their asses in line. His dad, on the other side, wasn't a disciplinarian per se. He was a good teacher of sorts, but he was not a good father figure. He was rarely around. He was certainly not loyal to his family or to his wife, for that matter. He actually had 2 illegitimate kids with their housekeeper when John was a super baby, when he was only a couple months old. John was actually born between his 2 illegitimate siblings, which it seems that he doesn't even know or never even knew about his illegitimate siblings, which is kind of crazy to think about. But at any rate, his dad wasn't exactly the most loyal person, but it did seem like he was a great teacher. Now, one thing, here's an important lesson, just in life in general. We tend to think that we can't learn from, quote, bad people. We look at somebody who is immoral, or we look at somebody who we deem to be bad, and we think that we can't learn from a bad person. But sometimes we can learn the best from a bad person. We can learn the best way to either not be that way, but certainly they have some quality to them on the other side that we can learn to actually improve ourselves. And in Bill's instance, he was actually a really good teacher. He was really great at teaching his son how to be independent and how to take responsibility for things. And ironically, he seemed to be very much a do as I say, not as I do kind of person. And he very much tried to instill certain attributes in John to make him, again, be responsible, be independent, to be trustworthy, to follow through with his word and things like that. Some of the things that Bill himself did not do a great job of. So much so that one of the nicknames in one of the towns that they lived in was Evil Bill. He also had Big Bill as one of his nicknames. He also had Doc Rockefeller. He was apparently a traveling quote-unquote doctor, even though being a doctor back in the 1840s, give or take, wasn't, defined doctor. Apparently what he did was made medicinals and put them in his wagon and went and sold them. And that's how he made money. And he made lots of money. And one of the things that John learned from his father was the love of money. something that he strove for in his life, which was very obvious since John D. Rockefeller ended up being the richest man in the world for most of his life. Maybe not most, but a lot of his life. So there were a couple of times when his dad did a great job again of giving John responsibility so that he could start to learn lessons. One of those times was when he was 8 years old. His dad taught him to go buy wood. I think they were trying to maybe build a shed on their property. And he literally just sent him out to go buy wood. And he told him different deals to look for and good kinds of wood to look for and what to get, what not to get. And he went and completed the task at 8 years old. At like 10 or 11 years old, he started to let him do the books for his business, to keep track of his books, to keep track of the finances, so that he could learn that skill early on, which again proved to be a very useful skill in his lifetime. At 16, he dropped out of school and went and sought his first job. Now, the reason that he dropped out of school we'll actually see in a little bit whenever I read from the book, which is, again, just another way to show how Bill was not exactly the most loyal father. But John dropped out of school at 16, only a couple months away from graduating, actually, to go seek his first job. And then at 19, he got into his first partnership, trading commodities, actually, trading food stuffs and things like that. Literally, like trading them, not like on the stock market like we do today. You can go trade commodities. You can do that from sitting in your living room. He was literally like buying them and then shipping them off, like trading them around. Like literally that's what they were doing. So at 19 years old, he was already in his first pretty serious business. Like that's a pretty serious thing to be involved with. So one of the things that we see early on in John is that his dad is teaching him to take responsibility, and he's teaching him specific skills on how to deal with business in particular, how to deal with being a successful, definitely a successful business person. But I would say that knowing books and knowing finances comes with just being able to deal with life in general. That's why so many people struggle in life, is because they don't have any clue how to deal with finances. Like just being able to look at things and say, no, I shouldn't buy this. Yes, I should buy this. Maybe I should wait to buy this. Maybe I should get this now. Maybe I should put this money over here instead of keep it over here where I can easily access it. Like just some simple rational decisions like that. Most people on earth have no clue how to deal with that. So having a basic understanding of that would be very useful for everybody. So we see that early on in his life, and we see how that builds into the beginning of his business life. So basically from the age of 19 on, he's in business for himself. He worked for somebody else. At 16, he got his job as a bookkeeper, actually. And the way that he did it, we'll see here in a second, the way that he did it was just by going and telling people, hey, I can do bookkeeping. And that's the way that he did it. Going and knocking on doors and saying, hey, I can do bookkeeping. Can I do bookkeeping for you? And eventually someone bought it and said yes. And he ended up being a bookkeeper for 3 years for that firm. So a couple other things worth noting that I skipped over, mostly just to be able to get through that, is that, I mentioned his dad not being around and his dad not being loyal. And, you can kind of go, oh, well, feel a little bad for him because his dad wasn't around and wasn't loyal to his mom, wasn't loyal to the family. Well, he wasn't around a lot. I mean, he would literally be home maybe for a couple months, and then he'd go away for more than a couple months, 3 or 4 months, and then he'd come back. And everybody knew that, well, of course he'd be out, and he'd be out selling his medicinal things, and that's what he would go do. But he was out gallivanting as well. He was out, going and finding women and all of that stuff at the same time. And, his family knew that. His family knew what was going on. Also, they moved often. I mean, it seemed like they moved every couple of years until they finally landed in Cleveland. He was born in New York, and they moved around New York a couple times in John's early years. And then finally, his dad, maybe when they were John was 5 or 6, took them to Strongsville, Ohio, which is right outside of Cleveland, and then was there for a year and then finally moved to Cleveland. So they bounced around a lot. And most of the houses that they stayed in were just little small houses. They weren't shanties by any stretch, but a lot of them were just small houses. Sometimes Bill, his dad, would stick him with his sister, and his sister had 5 or 6 kids, so they'd be in a house with another family that was 7 people, and there's 6 of them, including Eliza, all living in this house, and Bill would just run off and go do his thing. So, while Bill, his dad, was a good teacher and he definitely taught him things like taking responsibility and things like bookkeeping and other good business virtues, he wasn't really exactly this person to look up to. He wasn't really around to help convey, a good moral standing. And the way that they bounce around as a family, it's how John could perceive any level of stability in his life is pretty incredible. He had to take responsibility for his family super early on. He recognized well, definitely 16 years old, but before that, at 12 and 13, he was already, doing some work out in the farm and with animals and things like that to help bring food in for the family and stuff along those lines. But at 16, he recognized that he had to take care of his family. It was on him to take care of his family, that his dad wasn't going to be this stable person. He clearly wasn't going to be around to do it. There were 6 mouths to feed, including his. So he had to take it into his hands, take responsibility, and take care of his family. And he chose to do that at 16 years old. That's a big reason why he chose to drop out of school and go get his first job. So I didn't want to leave you with a picture of, oh, well, they didn't have this terribly hard, challenging life. And it's not like they grew up necessarily dirt poor by any stretch, but the environment that he was in, certainly he could have gone a couple of different ways. And if you look at many successful people, many of them grew up in an environment where it could have gone one of 2 ways. Many more ways than that, but generally speaking, one of 2 ways. Either they were going to stay in that dirt environment, in that poor environment, and they were going to go down the same route. So in Rockefeller's situation, either he was going to be like his dad, and he was going to go gallivant around, and he was going to go be, which one of his brothers, I believe, ended up doing. Either he was going to do that, or he was going to do the opposite. And many successful people today, they do the opposite. A lot of the people that you hear about, they grew up either poor, or they're immigrants, or their parents were immigrants, and they saw how they had to work hard and they didn't get very far. So they decided to flip the script and do something completely different and turn the family lineage around and completely, achieve a level of success that they didn't think that their family could achieve. So it's not to say that Rockefeller grew up in this family that was like, oh, they're a successful family. Of course, he was prepped to be successful. Well, he was definitely taught plenty of good quality virtues and skills and abilities that led to that. But by no means was there, especially a father figure that was showing him, that was around to show him stability and holding the family together, and keeping them in a stable environment. So it's pretty incredible that he was able to take control of his life, take control of his situation, and make out of it what he did. What's up, guys? I want to jump in here real quick and talk to you about achieving your goals. If you're listening to this podcast, then I know you want to achieve something extraordinary in life, whether that's building a business, getting in the best shape possible, or maximizing your time with your family. And if you want to do any of those things, there's 2 things you need to be able to master. One of them is time, And the other one is productivity. It starts with managing your time and being able to eliminate the things that are getting in your way so that then you can set your goals and start to break them down into actionable steps and take those steps and interject them into your life so that you can take action and turn those dreams into reality. And in order to help you do that, I created the Alpha Life Action Plan. It's literally a 90-day action plan that does both of those things, starts with taking your time, figuring out where you're spending it, eliminating the things or delegating the things that you don't need to do so that you can free up your time to then set your goals and break them down into action steps and start to take action on them so that you can achieve the things that you want in life. The Alpha Life Action Plan is yours for free. All you have to do is cover shipping. You can go to goodwolfproject.us/action plan and put in your information there and have it sent to you ASAP. That's goodwolfproject.us/action plan so you can start to take action on those goals and dreams you want to create the life that you deserve. Now let's take a look at the lessons we can learn from Rockefeller's early life that we can apply in our own lives. There's 3 lessons that I want to talk about. Number 1 is take responsibility and don't let anybody else take it for you. Number 2 is have a singular focus. Number 3 is erase doubt and pity from your mind. So if you take these 3 ideas, we can look at anecdotes from the biography, and we're going to look at those in a second, how those 3 ideas particularly changed his life and molded him into the person that was able to become the world's richest man and achieve the level of success that he did. It's pretty incredible. So the first one, take responsibility. Don't let anybody else take it for you. Let me get to the page. All right, so this is why I told you that at 16, Rockefeller quit school and took a job. And this is why. But it also shows why he wanted to take responsibility for his life. He wanted to start to take responsibility so that he could provide for his family because he felt like his dad couldn't. And here's why. From the book, it seems likely that Bill's second marriage had immediate repercussions in the life of his oldest son. All along, John had planned to attend college, with Eliza fortifying his resolve in the hope that he would someday become a Baptist minister. Then he received a letter from his father that dispelled his dreams. As he recalled, quote, "My father conveyed an intimation that I was not to go to college. I felt at once that I must get to work, find a situation somewhere." Rockefeller never clarified why he dropped out of high school around May 1855, just 2 months shy of commencement exercise July 16. But Bill's second marriage on June 12 supplies the missing piece of the puzzle. About to enter into his second marriage, Bill must have been drastically scaling back first family expenditures, albeit without disclosing the reason for the sudden urgency. As John said, "There were younger brothers and sisters to educate, and it seemed wise for me to go into business." So, literally, his dad, his family, John and his mom Eliza, and the rest of his siblings were in Columbus. And his dad had gone up to some part in Canada and found this other girl that he liked a lot and was marrying the other girl. So he was married to Eliza, John's mom, and he was going to marry this other girl. And it seems that it was obvious that Bill wasn't giving the family as much money. Maybe they didn't have as much food. Maybe they didn't have as much clothing, whatever it was. So John decided, again, to take responsibility into his own hands, to quit school and to go find a job. Now, in today's world, a lot of people let other people take responsibility for them. It's actually normal to let somebody else take responsibility. if you look at almost any part, any major part of life, whether that's career, whether that's health, whether that's finances, most people let other people take responsibility for that. When it comes to health, we let big pharma take responsibility for it by fixing us with medications. We let healthcare take responsibility for it by telling us what to do and us listening blindly. And that's why we are as obese, as sick as we have ever been. Ever. Even though the healthcare system is growing and expanding, you would think that healthcare growing and expanding would mean, well, I don't really know what you would think it would mean. It's a complete oxymoron, as a matter of fact, now that I think about it, because it should be shrinking, if anything. If it is caring for people's health, then the system should be shrinking, which therein lies the conundrum. Why would they make you healthy? And the only way that you will do that is if you take responsibility for that. That's how we fix the problem. And the same thing goes for career, the same thing goes for wealth, the same thing goes for other parts of our lives as well. So we have to be able to look at ourselves and ask, where can I take more responsibility in my life? Where can I grab responsibility and grab hold of the reins so that I feel like I have more control in my life? Because many people are unhappy with what's going on in their life and don't recognize that there is so much that they could be doing because they've bought into this system. Whereas if you let go of the reins a little bit and you get comfortable with relying on yourself, goodness forbid that you rely on yourself to actually take care of yourself. Can you imagine? If you actually did that, then what would happen? Who would you become? What would you achieve? What could you accomplish if you actually took responsibility and decided to take the reins of your life, of your health, of your career, of your finances? What would happen? Okay. Rockefeller was 16 years old when he decided to take responsibility for a 6-person family. 16 years old. I think we can all do a much better job of taking responsibility for ourselves. Number 2, have a singular focus. Have a singular focus. So this is the one that most people will have problems with because many people look at people like Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie, who was the steel guy around the same time, and Cornelius Vanderbilt, who was the train guy around the same time, and they think they're just greedy people. Now, granted, they all ended up being the richest man in the world at some point and making lots and lots of dollars. All of them of which, if was adjusted for inflation, I think would still be the richest people in the world today. So when we talk about what we're going to talk about now, which is Rockefeller's singular focus of collecting money, that's what most people see. They see greed. They see greed and just absolute, they link that to the devil, essentially, or whatever bad thing you want to link it to. The problem is, going back to the idea that you can't learn from an evil person or a bad person, people link money to evil and greed and all these moral, whatever that people deem as bad. And what they don't recognize is that keeps them from making money. You having a feeling that money is bad because it makes people greedy, money is bad because it makes people whatever else you want to link to it, you having that feeling will keep you from making money. And that is so important to think about. That is so important to recognize, especially if you're like, damn, I wish I had more money, which I think that would be most people. Now, of course, you can be poor and be super happy. I know plenty of people who are financially poor and, fulfilled, maxed out fulfillment. I know plenty of people who are financially rich and have no fulfillment. So there's definitely people on both ends. But if you find yourself in a position where you're like, oh, I feel like I can't make any money, but money is such a bad thing and it's so bad for you and it just makes you a greedy person and so on and so forth. Well, no, that's not true. The truth of the matter is it just makes you more of the person that you are. And if you don't know, John D. Rockefeller continues to this day, to his death. He's been dead for whatever, 100, not 100, 80 years, something along those lines. Yeah, a little over 80 years. But anyway, I think he still donates the most money to charities today. He's been dead for 80 years. So, you do the math there. Who's affected more people positively? I don't know. Just saying. All right, so singular focus. From the book. Throughout his life, John D. Rockefeller reacted in a vitriolic manner to accusations that he had lusted after money as a child and yearned to be fabulously rich. Doubtless embarrassed, he contested insinuations that he was motivated by greed instead of a humble desire to serve God or humanity. He preferred to portray his fortune as a pleasant accident, the unsought byproduct of hard work. Yet stories surface of Rockefeller daydreaming about money in Owego, one of the many places they lived in New York, when he was only in his early teens. Maybe Owego is not in New York. Anyway, not important. One day, strolling by the Susquehanna, which is maybe a river, with a friend, he blurted out, "Someday, sometime, when I am a man, I want to be worth $100,000, which is laughable because he was worth much more than that. And I'm going to, someday. Nearly identical accounts come from so many sources that one is forced to conclude that he had conveniently expunged such memories. Given his father's panting ardor for money, it would have been strange had he not been bewitched by gold. So, very early on, John knew that he wanted money. He wanted to accumulate money. And guess what? He did. But what does that teach us? I'm not telling you that has to be your focus. That's not even close. What it teaches us is that if you have a singular focus, this is the thing that I want the most. This is what I want. If you have a singular focus, then there's no fucking way that you won't do it. There's no way. If you have a singular desire, a burning desire to achieve this thing, one singular thing in life, if you have a burning desire to get that done, there's no fucking way that it doesn't happen. You'll get it done. You'll make it happen. You will figure out a way to ensure that it is completed and accomplished. For sure. The problem is, most people don't give a shit enough about anything because they're so busy feeling sorry for themselves. Because life is so easy. Because life is so comfortable. Because we are in a part of society where life is as good as it has ever been, ever, always, ever, ever. And because of that, we have no desire to do anything. We have no desire to achieve more because it's so damn comfortable where we are. It's so damn comfortable sitting here in this nice, comfortable chair with this bag of potato chips, with this fancy flickering thing in front of me that I can just sit and I can click this little thing right here and it'll change to a different channel where I can watch something different if I don't feel like watching what I'm watching. And that's what we can do. And we think that things are unfair today, but we ain't doing shit about it. If you have a desire to do something and you eliminate the fucking distractions and you put your focus to that thing, you will achieve it. There's no way you won't. The only way you won't is if you quit. Is if you give up. That's the only way. Now, I know it seems highfalutin or whatever. Seems crazy to think, oh, Jerry, you're speaking all this crazy nonsense mantra stuff. Am I? So the last time you tried to lose weight, if you're listening to this, then I'm assuming, like the rest of society, you've tried to lose weight at some point. The last time you tried to lose weight, how hard did you try? How hard? Tell me. How long did it take you to quit? 6 weeks? 8 weeks? If you're in the select few, 12 weeks? I can tell you, having owned a fitness studio for 10 years, those are the numbers. First wave, which is the vast majority of people, go within 6 to 8 weeks. And then there's a group that'll stick around about 12 weeks. And then there's a very select few that stick around beyond that. A very select few. And the same goes with every other goal. Literally, the statistics are the same for every other goal. Making money, having a good quality marriage, all of the above, all the goals. So if you just put your mind to it and you let that be your focus and you just work toward it, pick a path, work on the path, stay on the path, and let that be your focus. And then when that path quits working, change your direction. Pick a different path and go down that path. And then when that path quits working, go down a different path. Or just make some tinkers to the path that you're on. And then switch things, change things just a little bit so that you can start making progress again. That's what it takes. The problem is we don't have the focus for it and we don't have the desire for it because we're too fucking comfortable. You have to decide what you want in life. I can't decide that for you. You have to decide. Okay, that leads us to numero tre. Erase doubt and pity from your mind. Erase doubt and pity from your mind. So this last little antidote is a good one. So we talked about how Rockefeller quit school, went and got a job, why he quit school and went and got a job so that he could take care of his family because his dad was marrying another woman and was not giving his family much money anymore. So this is basically his story on finding said job. Despite incessant disappointment, he doggedly pursued a position. Each morning, he left his boarding house at 8 o'clock, clothed in a dark suit with a high collar and black tie, to make his rounds of appointed firms. The grimly determined trek went on each day, 6 days a week, for 6 consecutive weeks, until late in the afternoon. The streets were so hot and hard that he grew footsore from pacing them. And perseverance surely owed something. His perseverance surely owed something to his desire to end his reliance upon his fickle father. At one point, Bill suggested that if John didn't find work, he might have to return to the country. The thought of such dependence upon his father made a cold chill run down his spine, Rockefeller later said. Because he approached his job hunt devoid of any doubt or self-pity, he could stare down all discouragement. I was working every day at my business, the business of looking for work. I put in my full time at this every day. He was a confirmed exponent of positive thinking. So in that antidote, we have 2 things again. Number 1, he wants to take responsibility for his life. He wants to be independent. He does not want to be dependent on his father. Number 2, for 6 weeks, 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, well, we're not really sure how long, but at least 8 hours a day, I'm sure, he walked around from place to place to place, knocked on doors, and got rejected. And got rejected, and got rejected, and got rejected. Now, how many people today would make it past 1? Okay, we eliminate that 70%. How many of those people would make it past 3? Okay, we eliminate that another maybe 20 to 25%. How many people would make it past 10? And so on and so forth. I'm not saying that I would even do that. I'm not, by no means am I patting myself on the back and saying, hey, I would have done that. I don't think I would have. I don't think I would have. Like to believe that I would. I am my own superhero. But if I'm being real with myself, I don't think I would have. So if you put that in perspective, the number of times you have not done something at all because of fear of rejection, or because you doubted your abilities, or because you felt sorry for yourself for maybe you did try something and you failed and didn't make it, and you felt sorry for yourself because of it. So you never tried anything again. 0 times in history, 0 times in history has the first time worked for anybody. 0 times in history has the first time worked for anybody, ever. So if you put that in perspective and you recognize that the one time that you have tried and the bad feelings that you do have about that, and the pity that you feel and the doubt that you have about trying it again, all of that is literally just a way of you procrastinating and putting it off, then you can just skip all those steps and just try again. Because all of the things you're telling yourself are just things. They're just thoughts. They're just ideas. They're just feelings. They just come, they go. They come and they go, and blah, blah, blah. Thoughts aren't yours. They come, they go. They show up, they leave. You have many tens and thousands of them a day. Come and go. They come and go. Feelings are the same way. They come, they go. They show up one day, they show up, and then they leave. And then they come, and then they show up, and then they're back, and then they're gone. And then that's it. I feel motivated. No, I don't. I feel happy. No, I don't. I feel angry. Wait, no, I don't. Wait, where's all this feeling going? Well, guess what? If you can just block the shit off and just go. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Don't pity yourself. Quit doubting yourself. Just do it. Doubt only expands to the extent that you don't do things. That's it. When you don't do things, when you don't take action, when you don't step into it, when you don't move toward growth, when you don't run away from safety, that's when doubt expands. And pity and all the other bad feelings that are holding you still, that are keeping you where you are, all of them, they expand because you're not doing anything. You can just choose to not think them and just move forward. Now, if you're in the routine of thinking that way and feeling that way, then you have to get in the routine of not. So that takes practice. It's a daily practice, something you have to just continually focus on, because self-doubt is a habit, just like self-pity is a habit, just like discipline is a habit, just like sleeping better is a habit, just like eating good is a habit. All of those things are the same idea. They're just neurological systems that happen. That's it. So if you currently feel like you're stuck in self-doubt, well, you can create what would be the opposite of doubt? Confidence, belief, self-belief. You can create that. You just have to start doing things. You can't sit and wait for it. You only start to believe in yourself by doing things and by going, oh, look, I did that. Oh, look, I did that. Oh, look, I did that. Well, that's how you do things. That's why I believe the 1% process is so effective, which is my daily strategy for taking action. If you don't have the 1% process, you can go to goodwolfproject.us and you can grab it. It's a PDF that you can have. It's yours. Just put your email in and you can have it. But literally, it's the 3-step process for overcoming self-doubt. I'll even run through the steps with you real quick. Number 1 is execute. You execute your steps. As you execute your steps, number 2 is emphasize. You tell yourself, that's like me. I did that. That's like me. I did that. So that you're creating a new habit loop And number 3 is evaluate. At the end of the day, you evaluate the things that you did so that you can become better, so that you can change what you did, so that you can improve for tomorrow, so that you can get 1% better every single day. Those are the steps. That's why it's important to do things like that so that you can create a cycle of upward spiral instead of a cycle of downward spiral. And that's where so many people in society are today, downward spiraling, and they feel like that's the only way to go. Well, it's not. It's just the way that you're habitually moving. So you can habitually move in a different direction. You just have to choose to. You can let go of self-pity. You can let go of self-doubt. You just have to choose to. And it starts by taking action. So those are our lessons from John D. Rockefeller. That is the business of self-mastery, taking responsibility, having a singular focus and staying focused on that thing until you see it achieved. And then the last one, which I just went over, erase self-doubt and pity from your mind. When you do that, the rest of that becomes a lot easier. When you erase self-doubt and pity from your mind, having a singular focus becomes easier because you quit doubting whether or not this is the right thing to do. You just know that that's what you want and you just do it and you just go for it. You also take more responsibility for things because you don't doubt yourself that you can do it. You trust that you can take responsibility of your health. You trust that you can take responsibility of your business. You trust that you can take responsibility of your finances, and you just go fucking do it instead of questioning all the time. And that's how you live life. That's how you make life happen for you instead of let life happen to you. And that's what we want, is to get better, is to feed our good wolf, recognizing that requires getting 1% better every single day as we move forward, learning from lessons in the past so that we don't make the same mistakes in the future. That's what we want to do. Okay? That's our lessons for today. And until next time, here's to your 1% growth every day.